But I got into journalism with the question, is it possible that journalism can be healing? And I sought out the counsel of a Tibetan Lama in Cambridge who was staying in the home of a Harvard professor, David McClellan, who studied entrepreneurs for 40 years. But he also he was a kind of a way station for itinerant spiritual teachers and consciousness researchers like Timothy Leary and Richard Alpert Ramdas. So I got an audience with Kalu Rinpoche, and I asked him, is it possible to serve the Dharma, to do work that is healing, that relieves suffering and promotes liberation through journalism? And he just laughed. And then he laughed some more and laughed some more. And then I thought, Then he said, in Tibet, the word for journalism and the word for illusion, or the word for news and the word for illusion is the same word. As long as you remember that, you can serve the Dharma through journalism. So now, fast forward to my 54th year, I've burned out at Utne Reader, the magazine I started, which grew to 300,000 paid circulation, and we figured nearly 1 million readers per issue. At its peak, my favorite thing was introducing our readers to each other in a group of salons. We did a cover story called Salons, How to Revive the Endangered Art of Conversation and Start a Revolution in Your Living Room. And we invited our readers to send us their name and address and daytime phone number if they wanted to meet other Utne readers in their zip code. And over 10,000 people responded. And eventually 20,000 people joined the Neighborhood Salon Association. I loved doing that. But after 15 years, in around the year 2000, I was making a mess of my business and my marriage, and I was burning out, and I needed to take a sabbatical. I needed to get out of there. I was too much identified with ideas and my head, and I realized I need to find my heart. And so I left on a sabbatical that became a forever. And I went off to study Vipassana meditation, which led to studying a Tibetan form of meditation called Tonglen, a heart-focused meditation. And that led to studying something called heart math. I went and lived at the community in Boulder Creek Boulder Creek, California for 3 weeks to see if they were really living what they were teaching, very simple heart-focused techniques, and they were. And then around that time, I picked up an old musty copy of a book that I had purchased 25 years before called Knowledge of Higher Worlds and Its Attainment by Rudolf Steiner. By this time, my 3-year-old son was joining Waldorf school, and this was So I read Steiner's writing about what he called heart thinking, really not just shifting to the heart, but really finding a balance between thinking and feeling. And he said thoughts that aren't warmed by the heart have the danger of becoming abstract and cold, whereas feelings not kind of held in check by your thinking can get you in trouble. I knew about that one. Those weren't his words. So around that time, our kids' Waldorf school lost the 6th grade teacher, and one of the teachers came to me and she said, "Eric, you should teach." And I said, "No way." And then 5 days later, I found myself coming back to the school and saying, "You know what, if you'd have me, I would be honored to teach." And so that summer I went to 3 different training institutes and trained as much as I could to prepare for the next year's 7th grade as a class teacher. And it was the hardest work I've ever done, but also the most rewarding. I was up till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, at least a couple nights a week, trying to stay a step ahead of my students. I had no clue what teachers go through until I actually taught myself. But it was, I'm very grateful to have been able to do that. And it was the best education I ever had. In the beginning of 8th grade, one of the boys on the first day of school spat in a girl's face. He was a new kid in class, just the year before. The next day, a girl who'd been in the class since kindergarten came to me and she said she was leaving the school because the other girls were being so mean to her. And I realized the theme for the 8th grade in Waldorf is revolution, and I had a revolution on my hands already. So I decided to introduce the practice of counsel, of a group conversation, to get kids out of this sort of jousting, verbal jousting, and seeing how they could wound or heal with words. And so I gathered a cloth and a feather and a candle and a rock and a pine cone to make a little centerpiece. And on my way in, I flipped on the radio to listen to NPR, and 9/11 was happening. So when I got to school, as the kids arrived, half of them heard that a tower had been hit. We didn't know if it was terrorism or what was going on. But I ushered the kids out of the room into the space that I had prepared for them. And instead of turning to the television or radio, we turned to each other. And we talked about how do we want to treat each other and how do we want to be treated. And the kids showed up so beautifully that we ended up using counsel every week, at least once or twice, for the rest of the year. And this class that had begun in chaos came together like family. So my journey to find and feel and follow my heart is a continuing practice. Last summer, or a year ago, almost exactly now, I lost my kid sister to breast cancer. She was a PhD in social psychology and a leading expert in social and emotional learning. She ran an organization called CASTLE, which is the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning. And she marveled at how Waldorf kids seem to have such extraordinary social and emotional skills. And there are lots of reasons for why that is, and she was bringing that into public schools. But her death really hit me. And then last summer, I got pneumonia and nearly died. And that really got me thinking and feeling. And I guess what I'm suggesting in telling this story is that even though you're graduating today on a professional journey, the tendons of the soul, this spiritual journey that we're all on, the soul's journey, is something that continues throughout your whole life. And as my sister has proven through her research and advocacy, it's the social and emotional skills, the skills of the heart that will serve you best as you become change agents out in the world. And I want to leave you with there's when I was teaching that 8th grade, and at a particularly low point in my marriage, my wife found a verse by Rudolf Steiner at the bottom of a pile that somehow surfaced called the faithfulness verse. And the faithfulness verse is something that we said to each other every night, and it got us not only through that rocky patch of our marriage, but it got me through teaching those 8th graders. And it goes like this. Create for yourself a new, indomitable perception of faithfulness. What is usually called faithfulness passes so quickly. Let this be your faithfulness. You'll experience moments, fleeting moments with the other person, when the human being will appear to you as if filled, irradiated with the archetype of his or her spirit. Then there'll be other moments, long periods of time when the human being is darkened. At such times, you will learn to say to yourself, "The Spirit makes me strong. I remember the archetype. I saw it once. No illusion, no deception shall rob me of it." Always struggle for the image that you saw. This struggle is faithfulness. Striving thus for faithfulness, we shall be close to one another as if endowed with the protective powers of angels. So that got me through. That reminded me what I learned when I was doing acupuncture. It reminded me that when the person who's in front of you is not in tune with who they are, but with their own kind of presenting symptoms of a partial view of themselves, struggle to find their archetype, struggle to see who they really are, who that human being is. That human being may be identified with their political point of view or their racist point of view or some partial view that makes them less than fully human, but struggle to see who they really are as a human being. And you do that by connecting to their heart. I want to leave you with some words from the best commencement speech I ever read and heard, also by, again, my friend Paul Hawken. He said, "You join a multitude of warm-hearted, caring people today. No one knows how many groups or organizations are working on climate change, poverty, deforestation, peace, water, hunger, conservation, human rights, and more. This is the largest movement the world has ever seen. Rather than control, this movement seeks connection. Rather than dominance, it strives to disperse concentrations of power. Large as it is, no one knows the true size of this movement. It provides hope, support, and meaning to billions of people in the world. Its clout resides in ideas, not in force. It is made up of teachers, children, peasants, business people, rappers, organic farmers, nuns, artists, government workers, fisher folk, engineers, students, incorrigible writers, weeping Muslims, concerned mothers, poets, doctors without borders, grieving Christians, street musicians, the President of the United States, and graduates of Antioch University. Congratulations. Find and feel and follow your heart. Bless you and your work.